Today, we're diving into the story of the Achaemenid Empire, the ancient world's very first superpower. We are going to unpack an incredible story of brilliant conquest, absolute administrative genius, and a clash of civilizations that literally shaped the course of history. So, our story kicks off with a massive problem. You have the great Persian king Cyrus, and he's standing in front of the city of Babylon. Now, this isn't just any city. We're talking about a fortress with walls so thick, two chariots could race side by side right on top of them. And inside, they had enough farmland to wait out any siege you could throw at them. By all accounts, it was completely unconquerable. But here's the thing about Cyrus. He didn't need to smash his way in. He was way smarter than that. See, he knew there was a kind of religious civil war brewing inside the city. The king of Babylon had really ticked off the powerful priests, and they started looking at Cyrus as, well, a much more tolerant option. So they did the unthinkable. They just opened the gates and welcomed the Persian army in as liberators. And this is where Cyrus shows his true genius. Instead of burning the city to the ground, he walks in like a savior. He famously issues a decree of religious tolerance, which, and this is huge, included freeing the Jewish people from their captivity in Babylon. That one single act sealed his legacy. He wasn't just another conqueror, he was Cyrus the Great, the liberator. But that era of goodwill? Yeah, it didn't last. After Cyrus fell in battle, his son Cambyses II took the throne. And let's just say he was nothing like his dad. History remembers him as a famous tyrant, and his rule brought a new, much darker chapter to the Persian story. Now, despite his awful reputation, Cambyses was an undeniably effective general. He launched this massive campaign and managed to conquer Egypt, becoming the first Persian king to also be crowned Pharaoh. And under his command, the Achaemenid Empire became the first superpower in history to span 3 continents: Asia, Africa, and Europe. I mean, that is just an incredible achievement. Cambyses' reign ended in total chaos and a bit of a mystery, but out of that mess rose his distant cousin, Darius the First. And this is where the story really shifts. It's not just about conquest anymore. The question becomes, how do you actually run an empire this gigantic? And this comparison really just hits the nail on the head. If Cyrus was the father, the guy who built the whole thing through conquest and his policy of tolerance, then Darius was the architect. He was the one who designed the system to hold it all together for generations to come. Darius understood a really fundamental truth. You simply cannot rule an empire on this scale with brute force alone. It's just too big, too diverse. You need systems, you need infrastructure, and you have to find a way to make sure people hundreds of miles away from you stay loyal. His solution was a stroke of pure administrative genius. He chopped up the entire empire into these manageable provinces, and they were called satraps. Each one was run by a local governor, a satrap, whose job was to collect taxes and keep the peace. But, and this is the key, they all answered directly to the king. But it wasn't just about dividing up the land and hoping for the best. To keep those satraps in line, Darius created this incredible network of secret inspectors, known as the king's eyes and ears. These were basically spies who traveled the empire and reported everything directly back to Darius. It was an ancient intelligence agency designed to snuff out rebellions before they even got started. Okay, so you have your provinces, you have your governors, you have your spies, but how do you connect it all? How do your messengers and agents even get around? Well, with this, the Royal Road, a massive 2,400-kilometer highway that was the communications backbone of the entire empire, stretching all the way from the heart of Persia to the Aegean Sea. But the road itself was only half the story. The true genius was the system he built on it. Darius set up 111 relay stations all along the road, each one with fresh horses ready to go. So a royal messenger could ride flat out, get to a station, swap for a fresh horse, and just keep going. This system turned what was a grueling 3-month journey into a 7-day sprint. It was basically the world's first Pony Express. And you really can't overstate the impact of these ideas. This Persian model of provincial government and high-speed communication was so effective that it was copied by empires for centuries, including huge ones like the Romans and the Ottomans. Darius really did build a system that was made to last. So, with the empire organized and running like a well-oiled machine, Persian ambitions started to look west, towards Europe. And that expansion was going to bring them into a direct collision course with a bunch of fiercely independent city-states, sparking one of the most famous conflicts in history, the Greco-Persian Wars. The whole thing really kicked off when a few Greek cities over in Ionia, that's on the coast of modern-day Turkey, rebelled against Persian rule, and Athens sent ships to help them out. Well, when Darius the Great heard about this, he was absolutely consumed with rage. Legend says he actually ordered a servant to whisper in his ear 3 times at every single meal, "Master, remember the Athenians." Oh yeah, he was going to get his revenge. And what came next was 50 years of brutal back-and-forth war. It starts with that first revolt. Then you have Darius's failed invasion at the Battle of Marathon. And then 10 years later, his son, Xerxes, comes back with a massive army, leading to the legendary stand at Thermopylae and the huge naval battle at Salamis. You know, these wars gave us some of the most epic stories in all of Western history. You've got the tale of the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae, this incredible, heroic sacrifice that bought the rest of Greece just enough time. And then you have the Battle of Salamis, where the smaller, smarter Greek fleet tricked the giant Persian navy into these narrow waters and just completely annihilated them. Now, even though the Persians failed to conquer Greece with their army, they didn't just pack up and go home. Nope, they just switched strategies. Instead of using their soldiers, they started using their money. They would funnel tons of gold to different Greek city-states to get them to fight each other, funding Sparta to fight Athens, for instance, just to keep their enemies weak, divided, and busy. For a long time, the Persian Empire was still the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. But its very success and all those epic stories from its wars with Greece, well, they planted a seed. Far to the north of Greece, in a little kingdom called Macedonia, a new threat was starting to emerge. You see up there, a young prince was growing up hearing all those tales of Marathon and Thermopylae, studying the tactics of both sides. And he wasn't interested in just defending Greece. He wanted to conquer the Persian Empire itself. His name was Alexander. And what he did next, well, that's a story for our next explainer.